Hi everyone, today I have two LEGO Star Wars mechs, the Boba Fett mech released last year as well as the Luke Skywalker X-Wing Mech, that's a mouthful, released this year in June. Here's a look at the back of both boxes, so some pretty interesting designs. I will note that the mechs are not part of Star Wars canon, but they're part of LEGO Star Wars canon, so you'll find animations and such of the mechs in the LEGO Star Wars universe only, but these are meant more for kids than for adults, so if you want to be a purist, these are not for you. If you want to have fun, let's jump right into it and let's start with the Boba Fett. I will do something unusual, and I'll open the box from here at the top instead of the bottom, where they suggest I open the box, and I'll tell you why later. So for the Boba Fett, we got 3 small numbered bags, plus this one unnumbered bag, which is technically considered a single piece. For the Luke Skywalker mech, we got 4 small numbered bags, as well as the instruction manual and this piece here for the lightsaber. I will note right here that this piece has way too many bubbles. They're more visible in person than on camera, especially this bubble right here. I wish it was not there, but we'll set it aside for now, and we'll go to the Boba Fett mech, which we'll build first, and of course without the instructions. So bag 1 builds this main body of the mech with a nice print right here, and we also get Boba Fett himself in bag 1. We'll look at both figures for both sets at the very end. Bag 2 builds these legs, including the feet, which are attached to the main body. Very satisfying to click into place. Bag 3 builds these arms, this weapon right here, this thing at the back, and for whatever reason, these 2 pieces. We'll have a look at the mech and the minifigure inside the mech at the very end, when we compare it with the Luke X-Wing mech, but to do that we have to build this one first, so let's do that. So bag 1 builds the body, the inner body of this mech, and unlike the Boba Fett one, there is no minifigure in bag 1, we're going to have to wait for a future bag for that. Let's move on to bag 2. So bag 2 once again builds these legs and feet, and these fit on to the main body using these ball joints, just like before. Very satisfying to click those in place. Bag 3 builds the iconic X, where the name X-Wing comes from, and I had wanted to add an additional stud here just to give this additional clutch power, but I can't do that because we have 2 blue pins here that will attach. This one is relegated back to being just an extra piece. So this is the build after bag 3. So bag 4 builds these arms, and each one of them has a separate weapon. And it also builds this front part, including this nice printed piece right here. In bag 4 we also get an additional weapon for Luke, and we can store this weapon and the extra version of it on these clips right here. They're shown on this, they're visible here on the side. Alright, let's have a look at both models. Starting with the minifigures, both Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker are done very well with very detailed prints, as you can see. Arm printing in the case of Boba Fett, and he also has this backpack. So very, very well done. They're Ultimate Collector series level, that's how good they are. Now they're not the same ones that you would find in an Ultimate Collector series, but they're very, very close to that level of quality, and I really like to see that. You have to really zoom in and look really hard to try to find any imperfections. I'll also point out the toe printing for Boba Fett, that is deluxe. And here's a look at him without the extra stuff getting in the way, as well as Luke's alternative expression with the goggles down. So he's smiling in both versions, and I think I like this one better, but they're both good. And for Boba Fett, there's no alternative expression, but there are these scars at the back of the head, and I think that's totally acceptable, especially because his face is usually going to be covered by the helmet most of the time, so it's no big deal. And again, here's a look at the print that was covered up by the backpack. Boba Fett gets this large weapon right here that's made of 2 pieces, a blaster plus a lightsaber hilt recolored to black. And Luke gets this very nice lightsaber, a standard one, with a metallic silver hilt. That's always very nice to see. There's no alternative hair piece for Luke, so he either needs to go bald or wear his helmet, and here's a better look at the helmet with the printing on it. So again, very well done. I think there's like a minor, like this line just goes a bit to the left, just slightly. It's a nitpick at this point. Other than that, it's very, very well done, and it reminds me of the giant Luke Skywalker helmet 18 plus set that was released not too long ago. So again, very nice figures to get, both of them. The Boba Fett, I think, is done in a little bit more detail because it has the toe printing and the arm printing. Both of them are usually what you would find in an 18 plus set, so that's pretty cool. The Luke Skywalker figure is still good, but it doesn't have the dual molded legs from the Ultimate Collector Series version, and it does not have the arm printing, but still a very nice minifigure to get at this price. Now let's put the figures inside and see what they can do. So there's nothing really interesting in the cockpit area. We have this piece here that holds each figure, and it's the same thing on the Boba Fett side, and there is no console or anything like that. So we just close this, but first we have to remove the weapon and put it somewhere. I'm not sure if this is the best idea to put it here because it might limit the articulation, so I'll actually just store this to the side and put the gun back. So this closes snugly from the front, but notice that it is exposed from the sides, which I think is okay at this particular scale. This is a playset much more than a display set. And then same thing here for the Boba Fett, and he does fit in with the backpack, which is pretty cool. But we need to take away his big weapon, lower his arm, and this one can be slotted right here. Yeah, it's just clipped into place, and there you have it. These are the two mechs. The Boba Fett mech is more interesting in terms of the color scheme. It's done generally in gray with some heat orange or yellowish orange, as well as dark red, sand green, dark green, and a little bit of brown as well, and some blue around the back and sand blue in various areas. So I do like the combination of colors. It is pretty accurate in terms of the source material, the original Boba Fett, and it obviously has LEGO's original take on it, so translated very nicely to the LEGO color palette. On the back we see an interesting choice here. So if you look at the 3D view, you'll see that here the lines are going horizontally on this piece and here they're going vertically. So I don't know why they did that, but that's an interesting choice. The back, this part of the back does not look very interesting, but we have here these rockets, so you can imagine this like just launching him into space, just like the starfighter that he usually has. And this thing can be fired off, apparently. Maybe it's more for when he's flying in this position, or maybe this is separable and it can be its own thing. I don't know, you can make up your own story for these kind of things. The articulation is going to be good in general, just because of the ball joints, so you're going to be able to move the arms every which way, but of course there are no elbow joints. This is a fixed angle, so it's always going to stay like this, which is okay, I guess. I mean, it would have been better if LEGO could somehow find a way to make this piece, but also make it articulatable without increasing the complexity too much, but I think that might be a bit much to ask for LEGO in this decade. Maybe next decade they'll figure it out. The fingers are articulatable one by one. The thumb is not. It's pretty much a static piece that's fixed in place, and it can hold on to these additional pieces as well that can be used as weapons or just used as a design detail. So the hands appear a bit, like the whole arms appear a bit stubby. It's, I guess, proportional to a LEGO minifigure rather than an actual human being. So don't compare this to the actor because this just looks a lot thicker, a lot stubbier, but that is what LEGO is going for. Plus, if they made it longer, then that would increase the price. Over on this side, the hand and arm is very similar with the addition of this weapon here. This weapon is done very nicely. It has the width of one stud. On top here we have this scope that's used to visualize the target, although you can't really, I mean, you can kind of make the minifigure see it, although it might be more of a representational thing. And then we have a stud shooter. If you press this, the stud is going to launch somewhere very far and it's going to be very hard to retrieve it afterwards. So if you're going to give this to a small kid, take away these studs or only let them play with it in a certain room in the house and nowhere else. Otherwise you'll have lots of trouble picking up these pieces. So yeah, it's generally a good look. The articulation is okay in terms of moving the hands up and down. Obviously you cannot be able to move this across the chest just because it's so short and stubby. Although the arm cannot do like a full like slash motion or bring this arm in front of the body just because of the limitations of the length here. It's pretty stubby and short. Because with the weapon turned around, like you can kind of simulate that motion a little bit, so it's fine for what it is. It's a kid's toy. It's not a proper mech that's designed for teenagers or adult collectors. So to me, this is fine. Of course, you can make it better, but if you want to make it better but keep the same price point, it's going to be very, very hard. The legs, it's a similar situation, although they're less constrained because there's less body to deal with, so you can go all the way up, all the way back, and you just need to make sure not to knock out this weapon if you have it there. They can also be splayed. You can make them do the splits. That's pretty funny. And then the ankles can articulate as well. Of course, there are no knees. Yeah, at this price point, at this scale, it's hard to ask for knee articulation without sacrificing something else. The articulation on the Luke figure is going to be pretty much identical. I'll just go through it for the sake of completion. Here there's a little bit more stuff that might get in the way. You can still raise a leg like this, and if you know what you're doing, you can make it pose in a dynamic pose like this. But again, this is very fragile. You have to get it just right. Make sure it does not fall off. So I don't recommend doing this for long-term storage. If you're doing like a stop motion kind of thing, then it does hold itself pretty well. So there's some nice friction in those ball joints, so you could do some interesting poses with both of these mechs. And of course here with the arms, it's going to be the same thing, because these are after all the same pieces, but just recolored differently. And these two mechs are so similar, they're almost identical in terms of their build and construction. Yeah, so yeah, here we also get a very similar gun to the one that Boba Fett has. The interesting thing about this one is that we get this lightsaber piece and the X-Wing here at the back. It doesn't really do anything, but it's nice to look at, and I think it looks very cool. So that's pretty interesting. So yeah, here I don't like this bubble here, but I do like the idea of having a big lightsaber. So that's pretty nice. The detail is good here with the cheese grater pieces, and these pieces here used to make it look kind of like a machine. So this is basically a mech, which is a type of machine, but it's also an X-Wing mech, and the X-Wing is a starship, so it's a hybrid between a starship and a mech. So that, I like the idea, I think it's pretty interesting. The only thing that indicates it's a starship, however, is this X right here, where the X can indeed close, although not perfectly because there's this gap in the middle. If you own the Lego X-Wing, you might already know that every single X-Wing has some kind of issue related to the X, one way or another. So this is probably the best that you can do, unless you find a way to modify this to make these closer together. We do get these 4 pink pieces here, or purple transparent pieces that represent the engines, just like the real X-Wing. So that's a very nice detail to get. Of course, this looks much better when it's in the shape of an actual X. And then we have these shooters here. They were not forgotten. They were covered by the use of this bar piece. So that's pretty cool. And here we have like the engine intakes are just represented by this single round tile, because there's not enough space to represent this in any more detail. I would have liked if they printed the T pattern here. Maybe that's a little bit too much to ask, but that would have been deluxe if they had done that. For both mechs, I'll complain about the use of this red piece here, this red axle, instead of using one in black, because there's an identical piece in black and it does exactly the same thing. On the other hand, it's a kid's toy, so a few random colors here or there is not going to hurt too much. There's the feet, they're very similar. These feet are actually larger, they're 5 studs long, so pretty large and pretty impressive in a sense. But I like the use of the claw pieces here, that's pretty nice. I did say at the beginning of the video that I opened the boxes from the top instead of the bottom where this thing is, and I did that for a reason, and now I'll tell you. It's because these sets can be placed in the box. At least that's how it should be. So with some, maybe with minor disassembly, or minimal disassembly required, you should be able to put the entire set in the box as it is, just like the Bionicle sets from back in the day. Let's see if that's true. That's almost true. So it's a little bit oversized, I think, but it basically fits the box, unless you have like lots of these boxes compressed together, which is not the case for most people. And then you're still going to have space for the instruction manual, assuming you want to keep it after you scan the QR code, although because this is available on Lego.com, you could just recycle it if you don't need it and you're not an instructions collector. You could just fold them or roll them, put them here. Yeah, that works. So the same thing for the other one, although for this one you might need to remove the X because it's a lot larger. It can be removed like, the whole thing can be removed like this. And then, yeah, these should fit in the box very easily. This piece might also need to be removed. Yeah, let's put that in. It fits pretty well. Let's put it in the manual. So yeah, we can fit the built set in the box with very, very minimal disassembly. We just need to remove the X and the lightsaber. That's it. And then when we close the box, we can store the box like this, and we won't have to worry about the contents falling out because we open the box from the top and not the bottom. Yeah, between these two mechs, there's lots of similarities. There's a few differences. Yeah, if you want the figures, you're going to need to get both of them. And if you are hesitating between one or the other, it would depend on which character you prefer. Which minifigure do you want to get? Or what do you prioritize? You want to have more colors, or do you want to have this big lightsaber? So I think it's a question of personal choice. In terms of the value, the direct value, the X-Wing mech has more pieces, 195 versus 155, but they cost the same price. Both are sold for $16 US or $20 Canadian. But because this one is a little bit older, you're more likely to find this on a 20% discount at Amazon and other retailers compared to this one, which is newer. So it might actually be about equivalent. Eventually they're going to discount this one as well, but you'll have to wait longer for that. So yeah, two very good mechs. I do like both of them. I prefer this one in terms of the color scheme. I prefer this one in terms of the general build because you get the X and you get the lightsaber. It's really hard for me to just pick one or the other because they both have some very good advantages and disadvantages. So yeah, let's put these to the fight and let's see which one wins. Comment down below what do you think, and I'll see you all in the next one. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and bye for now.